Hello everyone, welcome to my session 10 instructions and assignment video. This week's session deals with another important, excuse me, and very hot topic in the assessment field, formative assessment or assessment for learning. So many teachers believe that they are doing formative assessment by just asking typical large group questions, which to me are almost rhetorical, or by just walking around and observing. And unless you're observing and charting, you really aren't doing formative assessment because you're not letting students use that information to improve, or you're not being specific with that information. This session you'll read a short piece entitled "The Term Paper Assignment," which came from Stiggins et al. Actually, it was their first edition of the book that I've shared, Chappuis et al. Evidently, they've switched lead authors. And most of you will relate to it. And you should begin your discussion initial posting by talking about it, because it really is upsetting because all of us have had a teacher like Mr. Jones who was described in the article. But just don't rail about it and say, oh, I've got Turo professors who are like this. Okay, you can say that, but go beyond that. You know, what should Mr. Jones have done? And you can get some ideas based on how I teach my course and watching the Emily video, which is an interview by Judy Arter of Emily, who talks about Miss W. So by comparing Miss W with Mr. Jones, that is really what I'd like to see you do. You know, here's what Mr. Jones did and here's what's wrong with it. Here's what Miss W did and why it was so much more engaging and worthwhile. So keep that in mind as I talk about session 10 assignments. You're going to finish your selective response test and then upload it to the selective response test discussion board as an attachment. Notice I've created new groups. I will not be giving you any more feedback, but that does not preclude you giving feedback to each other in your new groups, because that's why I switched groups. So now you're taking the test of a different person, of different people. Feedback and posting scores is optional but encouraged. You will need to upload your final version for grading by me in session 11 assignments. I believe I also have a link to it where you can upload it in this session's assignments. But it's not due till the 29th, I believe, which is end of session 11. So. But many people, I've had many people say, oh, Dr. Tom, I uploaded my revised test in the revised test DB. No, that's for you to give each other feedback, for you to take tests of your classmates one more time, and then you use that information in your 3-part analytic summary. And here's my results, here's what I'm going to reteach, and this is why I'm going to reteach it. So it really gives you a chance to analyze actual test results. The last discussion board on instructionally oriented assessment or assessment for learning and grading practice is now open. This is your last discussion board, so I expect great connections to pop them in the many articles and course materials in session 10 and 11, especially the interview with Emily. Because we have not had a discussion board in several weeks, I'm expecting you to comment early and often. Remember, this discussion board is weighted more than any of the others. It's weighted the most. So this is where you really should shine. So don't blow it off, please. It could really affect, because it really will affect your grade. And this is one of the grading practices that enhances learning, is that you grade based on the last effort. It's like the timing for a person in track. You know, do you use their first time and then average it with their best time. No, this is the best time of a track of a mile or a 1500 K race. So these are all ways that grading should be done. So use the various articles to support your opinion. You don't have to connect to all of them. I've given you some articles from next session's assignment: Doug Reeves' article, Stiggins' article, which is on assessment for learning, which is actually this semester, and a handout by Ken O'Connor, which is about grading. So the Doug Reeves video and the Ken O'Connor handout are next week's, are actually in this week's course materials, but they're also in next week's assignments. So that will give you information about grading, because this discussion board is not only on formative assessment, but it's also on grading practices. So this is one of my favorite discussion boards. I'm looking forward to some heated conversations, especially about grading practice. Many of you will believe that it's okay to give zeros, and if I can't convince you that it isn't, then shame on me. And you go forward thinking that giving zeros is a good thing. That'll teach them not to cheat. Yeah. But if they hand in nothing, they deserve nothing. Those are all the ego-based grading practices that you'll hear every day in almost every school. I mean, I try to convince the Touro faculty not to give 0 grades and let people make up work and not take grades up because they made it up and got an A, but it was late. Hey, a person's mastered your learning targets, they should get an A. Not, well, I took off 10 points because for every day it was late. So I handed it in 3 days late. I got 30 points off to start with. So the most I could get was a 70. Does that reflect how well that student did on that? No. Okay, I'm not going to go any deeper into that, but I wanted to talk about the ancillary materials along with what you have to do for reading assignments. You have to read Chapter 12, Informative Assessment. You have to read this. This is a short one-page article on Marissa's experience, the term paper assignment. This is the Emily video where Judy Arter interviews Emily, and they talk about Miss W, how she does. There's your click on that to go to your instructionally oriented assessment. I'm also going to ask you to read this article by Brookhout and Lazarus. It's form assessment for special education, but there's some great stuff in there. There's videos, there's talk about feedback, self-evaluation, etc., etc. So that's an article I want you to look at. And of course, you have to upload your initial post. You're not going to get any feedback on this one from me. I've given you feedback on all your other initial posts, so you should know how to do APA format by now. So you're going to upload it as a Word document or a PDF file, and it's just pass-fail. It's just for safe assign checking. Now, you have a revised select a response test discussion board that's due at the end of this session. This is I'm not sure which group this is. These are new groups. So make sure you look at those. And of course, your double entry journal is also due. I gave you that assignment a couple of weeks ago. It's on the test prep chapter in Popham, along with several other articles that you should connect to, including my presentation. And this is a link to the revised select a response test, and this is the pretty extensive rubric, losing my mind, of which you'll use to grade it. But what I also wanted to draw your attention to the ancillary materials in this session. There are 2 great links that you should download and use for as long as you can. They're worth their weight in gold. If you don't get anything from this course, take these two web links. The first is 25 quick formative assessments. You'll see it's a actual textbook There are 96 pages in it. There are summaries and reflections. You can see dry erase board 3-2-1 summary, which I have used often. You have quick writes. You have my top 10 list. Smart cards, photo finish, unit college, turn and talk, and carousel brainstorming, which is one of my favorites, where you put newsprint on the wall and you can write questions on the newsprint, give everybody a different color marker, and they go, and each group goes and answers the question with a different color marker. So by the time everyone goes around the room, it's not only is it kinesthetic, it's getting them up and moving, but they get to see each other's answers to the questions, or it could be anything that you put up there, that a summary, summarize this chapter, one group summarizes this chapter. So carousel brainstorming is a great thing. So this is a great little pamphlet to download by Judith Dodge. The other one I think is even better. It's the Ultimate List, 65 digital tools and apps to support formative assessment. And you can see there's 65 of them, and there's links to them. I'm not familiar with many of these at all. I have used some of them. I've seen Plickers used, where you give kids laminated. I think they're laminated. Maybe you don't laminate them, but they're like A, B, C, D cards, and you do a quiz on the board, and then you scan the cards with your phone. Remind, of course, I use Remind in this course for the first time. I love it. And Poll Everywhere, I've used that. I think I even shared a video early on where a teaching channel video on a teacher using Poll Everywhere, and then summarizing students' answers after collecting the poll. So this is great stuff. You should check these out, and there's got to be some here that you can use. And I know Kahoot, I've never used Kahoot, but a lot of my students have used Kahoot. So that's good stuff. Take it and do with it what you will. That is it for these assignments. I will see you all next Monday. Good luck and good discussion boarding, and I look forward to reading your double entry journals.